hidden.
Good evening. This is the January 30th, 2019 West Warwick Zoning Board of Review. So the first thing we want to do is call the meeting to order. The next, would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing. Lord, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Peter Kelsey.
Here.
Jeffrey Hunt.
Here.
Amy Ortiz. Here. Justin Kutu.
Here.
Richard Banks.
Here.
Michael McPhillips is absent. Acting chair is Alan Hart.
Here.
There's a quorum on record.
Thank you. Next item on the minutes, the November 28th, 2018 meeting. Is there any discussion? What is it?
Those are on board review.
Oh, the reorganization. Is that the amended one? No. We
No.
haven't amended.
There's an amended one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah, so that's the only thing that was added.
okay.
Just up to that.
Well, on mine it was at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so our next item is the West Warwick Zoning Board of Review reorganization. We need to.
Yes, motion to elect a chairman and a vice chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we
Yes.
put the name of Michael McPhillips as chairman and Alan Horwick as vice chairman.
I second.
Any other nominations? Voice vote.
Roll call vote.
Roll call.
Peter Kelsey.
Yeah, present, good, yes.
Jeffrey Hunt.
Yes.
Amy Ortiz. Yes. Jeffrey, Justin Kutu.
Yes.
Richard Banks.
Yes.
Alan Hart.
Yes.
Congratulations.
All right. Okay, so now we'll move on to,
Slide that down to the chair. It's a present for the chairman.
thank you.
It's one of my extra copies of Robert's Rules of Order. Thought the chairman should have one. I have hard copy also.
It's a forward by Peter Kelsey. Okay, so now we'll move on to the minutes of the November 28th, 2018 meeting. Any discussion, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with petition number 2019-1. The applicant is Elmwood Realty LLC, the owner is same. This premise is located at 656 Providence Street, Plat 41, Lot 79, in the R6 zone. The proposed use, the applicant is seeking a use variance permit from 4 residential units and 2 commercial units to 6 residential units under Section 9 use variance of the zoning ordinance of the town of West Warwick as amended.
Mr. Chairman,
Identified.
that was the original
Right.
application, and a amended application
Right.
was filed. The only change being that instead of a use variance, a special use permit
Okay.
is being sought. As I indicated in a subsequent matter where an amended application was filed regarding notice, the purpose of notice is so that the people within the notice area are aware of what is being done. It is my opinion that an amendment changing the request from a use variance to a special use permit does not invalidate the notice that was sent, because the purpose is the change of commercial to residential, so that anyone who had notice, it doesn't matter to them whether it's use of special use permit. So that I think it is in order for hearing on the amended application. Having said that, I have marked as exhibits, exhibit number 1, the application, exhibit number 2, the radius map, exhibit number 3, the abutters list, exhibit number 4, the tax collector report, exhibit number 5, the zoning certificate, exhibit number 6, the site plan, exhibit number 7, a four-page building plans, exhibit number 8, the 3-page application amendment, exhibit number 9 that has been passed out to you this evening, a 2-page building official report, number 10, a 2-page municipal appraisal report, number 11, a second 2-page building official report, and number 12, a second 2-page municipal appraisal report. Those are marked and in the file.
And do we need a amended application?
The pages that were required to be amended have been submitted, showing that it's here for a special use permit as opposed to a use variance, and those are in the original file. You should have copies, but it's just a change in the application.
It's this book over here. This one. With the amended ones inside it.
Thank you. Okay, and you are the petitioners?
Actually, my name is Stephen Litwin. I'm an attorney in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm Mr. Butler's counsel.
Okay.
Mr. Butler, could you raise your right hand? Okay, well, first, state your name and address, please.
Sure. Jeffrey Butler, 155 Barn Door Lane, Cranston, Rhode Island.
Could you raise your right hand? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Chairman, this is a rather simple petition, in my opinion. Mr. Butler owns the property at 656 Providence Street. He bought it in 2008. At the time, it had 2 commercial units on the first floor, and he has 4 residential units up above. Since that time, he's tried to lease the commercial units. One has basically remained vacant for the 9 years that he's had it. He's had 1 tenant. And the other side, he's had 6 different tenants, all who have been there. I don't believe anyone's been there more than a year. Because the use is the commercial on the first floor and the residential up above in the R6 zone, in order to request a change of the 2 commercial units on the first floor to residential, a special use permit is required, which is actually consistent with a neighbor across the street at 653 Providence Street, who also petitioned the board for this type of a change, and that was approved. I think if the board would look at section 10, which are the requirements, and I know that it's part of the record, would be that this is certainly compatible with the neighboring land uses. In fact, there are no commercial units remaining in the neighborhood. The closest commercial unit is some 1,000 feet in either direction. The conversion to the residential units wouldn't be a nuisance to the neighborhood. One could argue it'll be less of a nuisance because you won't have a commercial use. I don't believe it'll hinder the future development of the town, and I think that the conversion to residential units would certainly be the purposes and intent of the West Warwick Comprehensive Plan. So based upon that, Mr. Butler's here to answer any questions you might have, but we would ask that the application be approved.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I proceed?
Yes.
With the change of request for variance to special use, did they need to have cards, green cards sent to?
He has the with.
Yep, I have the green cards and I have the receipts when I can.
May I have them?
I have the ones that were
Just
also
hand them.
sent back.
Just hand them to Mr.
Sorry.
I will mark those as exhibit number 13.
Mr. Butler, I understand that you have owned the property since 2008.
Yes.
At the time when you bought the property, did you receive any type of disclosures at all of the type of certified residential units that building had at the time?
Yeah, when I purchased the building, I actually came with a zoning certificate from the zoning officer. You know, the zoning certificate said it was 6 units, 4 residential and 2 commercial on the first floor.
And when, 2008?
2008 is when I obtained that zoning certificate.
Do you have that with you tonight?
I don't believe we do, no.
Okay, that seems, there seems to be,
Well, actually, I can produce that though, because I scan everything in, so I can actually find it on my phone right now. If that,
well, maybe you can do it in a few minutes. That'd be appreciated. The biggest issue that does cause a problem with the neighborhood, in my opinion, is parking. Do you have a plan that shows clear parking on that, on what you presented to us? I see a driveway. I'm estimating that the driveway is about 68 feet long, thereabouts?
yeah, it's about, yes.
Okay, so, and it's about 12 feet wide?
Yeah, so I would say it's 3 cars. That particular driveway holds 3 cars, you know, comfortably. It wouldn't be any more than.
Do you have another driveway for the
So-
property?
Well, what I did is in December, I purchased the property at 617 Providence Street, which is just over the bridge, and I repaved the parking lot, and I provided 8 specific parking spaces that are dedicated to this property. Because none of my tenants
Did
actually
you
have-
record that anywhere?
We can, we can, I can record it and have an easement.
Well, as far as this board is interested in, we're interested in anything that's already been recorded. We're interested in any permits that you've already taken or previous owners of that property have taken. We're interested in not future tense, we're much more interested in present tense and in many cases, past tense.
If I could respond to that, I think 2 things. I think first, going from a commercial use to a residential use would actually lower any parking
I
concerns.
absolutely disagree with you, sir.
Well,
The-
you're certainly entitled
The
to.
commercial, well, I am, you're correct. The commercial use on that property for years, I know it extremely well. Been to the restaurant on the first floor many times, renovating my multi-use property about 700 feet from that building. That property, when the commercial use has been there, and the restaurant has been operating, and the pharmacy were operating, it was always on-street parking. Always on-street parking. Never was there any other parking allowed off-street parking. For the entire history, I've been alive since 1949. I grew up on the property, again, 600 feet from that building.
And then
So,
the second,
so there's a big difference of your legal counsel's opinion and the opinion of this particular member of the
No,
board.
I respect, if I can answer that, I'm very, very concerned with parking as well. So when I purchased that property, of course, I still have 4 apartments upstairs with, you know, people that need to park. And of course, you can park on street overnight. I then purchased the property at 5 Penta Street, paved that, and when there's a parking ban, a small snow ban, my tenants park in the.
Where is 5 Penta Street, sir?
It's the, Penta Street is right across the street from 656 Providence Street.
I understand, but where is your parking on 5 Penta?
Right behind the building. I have 5 parking there for 10 cars. Now, what I did that for is just when there's a parking ban, that my tenants at least have a place to put their cars. Getting back to the property I purchased on 617 Providence Street, my request is, why couldn't it be granted pending the fact that I proved that there's
Because this board will not accept that.
Oh.
It's very, very simple. It's not something that, and we can ask our solicitor if that's correct. We cannot anticipate anything that one of our petitioners or applicants do or need. We can only, again, act on the present.
Actually, I
No.
think the board has the ability to grant a petition subject to certain conditions, because it would be premature to do
Well,
an easement.
can we just go back to 5 Penta Street? Can you be more specific where these other parking spaces that you have developed on or near Penta Street are, sir?
In the rear of Penta Street, 5 Penta Street, which is a
Now,
four-unit.
5 is on the south side of the property, is it the same side as your building?
No, it's on the north side.
It's on the north
It's on the
side.
Yeah, it's on the
Okay.
north side. It's the second house on the right, second house on the right, 5 Penta Street. So
When did you get that property, sir?
I've owned that since 2009.
This one right
I
here.
bought it right after this property when I recognized, I don't have
Is
parking.
that the property that has just been renovated?
Yes. Yep. Yep, and I've
So
got-
you have enough parking for your renovated building, which is how many units?
I have enough parking for that building, and I have enough parking spaces where the tenants can park there to have off-street parking in a snow ban, get them off the streets. If there's a snow ban or parking ban, I have enough parking. I never planned on that to be parking for 656 Brown Street, but for the fact, as a concerned neighbor, I don't want to be blocking people's driveways, so that's why I did that. I purchased the property at 617, knowing I want to convert these two commercial to residential. That's why I bought that other property.
All right, but nowhere in the plans that you have submitted to us is any mention of the property that you said across the bridge and/or at 5 Penta Street on the north side of Penta Street.
The parking at
So
Penta
this,
Street,
excuse me, this board has no knowledge of that whatsoever. And-
Other than his
other than
testimony
my
tonight.
testimony tonight, which I thought this is when I tested. In fact, I said to Steve when we got here tonight, I said, I assume they're gonna ask about the parking, I can answer about the parking. I didn't know that I needed to submit.
Do you know how many parking spaces that you would need if a board granted you the application for an accepting of 6 residential units on that property?
Well, I
Excuse
assume,
me, would you-
you're asking me, I
Yeah.
assume it's one per.
It is not, sir.
Per
It's
bedroom.
it's 2 per unit,
Okay.
so you need 12 parking
Okay,
spaces.
well, I'm gonna
And
full
on
bedrooms.
your property, you have 3.
There's 3 there, and then the other property, I designated 8, but I can designate another one, because there's plenty of parking in that property. So,
Which property is that?
the
5?
617 Providence Street.
Okay.
Or I can even, 617 Providence Street.
Just so I'm clear on this, your property is north of the bridge,
Which property are you speaking of?
Yes, that's correct, yes, it's north of the
and
bridge.
the,
The one I just purchased is south of the bridge, yep, it's the very next
so
building.
the people living north would have to park on the south.
Yeah, it's about 250 feet. It's closer than the Ripta bus stop.
And you also say that you have parking on 5 Penta Street, which is on the north side again of your property
Yeah,
at
it's
656.
Yeah, it's 60 feet from my property. I'm one of the abutters, so it's, Penta Street is 60 feet from Providence.
Well, that's interesting. But I don't know how just this board can consider it either at this time.
I would,
But this is
I would
656
be-
he's talking about.
from a legal
And the other
perspective,
one, the parking is down here.
only if it came to pass. I don't approve of, subject to an easement 250 feet on the other side of a bridge
Yeah.
on a night like tonight.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let me, if I could just keep on going.
The only thing I would say in that too is that, I mean, there's many cities, towns, I mean, I own property in Patuxent Village with no parking, and you get parking far away, Providence, downtown Providence. I mean, this is no different. When these buildings were built years ago, when there wasn't even cars, that there's no parking, and I found a place 250 feet away, it's, less than a football field, that people can walk. I don't know why that's difficult, and it's closer than a bus stop.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, do the people out here have a plan that we can look at, you can see?
Do we have any extra copies, Paul?
Let me see what I got. This is my extra.
Mr. Butler, have you, you know, this is an area that I've driven by thousands of times. Again, owning property nearby, but have you recently
I'll give him mine.
done renovations on the inside of the building, on your first floor?
No,
But you've done renovations on the outside of the building?
yes, yeah, I pulled a permit to change the windows, and, you know, I've tried to change it, when I first bought the property in 2008, I did major renovations to make it more presentable, to try to get some commercial tenants, that didn't work. So then, you know, 2 years ago.
Well, you've had commercial tenants in there, you've
Yeah,
had a
they keep
couple of
cha-
different,
They have, they kept
Restaurant.
changing hands, yeah, restaurant changed hands 4
Right.
times, you're right. You know, actually, I was the first commercial tenant, I put an ice cream shop in there.
I remember.
Okay, but I own the other I own 6 ice cream shops, so
Okay.
this is the only one that couldn't survive, was the one in West Warwick, unfortunately. And then I leased it to the restaurant, there was a restaurant in there, they changed hands 4 times, and the last one went out. The left side, I haven't been able to rent at all, and when I tell you rent, I mean, it's not a financial thing, but the last time I tried renting it, $500 each, $500, I could not get $500 to rent these 2 commercial spots, so I mean, I tried, it's not a commercial area anymore, it's residential, it's all residential, whole area, so that's
You're
why-
absolutely right, sir. And I compliment you for, in fact, wanting to do that. I did the exact same thing in my property. But I'm legal non-conforming for the only purpose of square footage for the property. You're also legal non-conforming because of your square footage of your property. Today's square footage, you're in an R6 area. I think you're just outside of the Natick revitalization of the Natick Village Zone. So for 6 units, you need 36,000 feet. You have 6. So that doesn't work in your favor. Again, for 6 units, you need 12 parking spaces on that property. That this board knows about and can deal with January 30th? January 30th. Not next week, not the week after. You telling us about different areas is great, but again, what we have to work with. There also seems to be some issue, and this, again, possibly is not in your purview that you can answer this question. That's why I asked you when you bought the property, what was in fact disclosed to you. I have information here from some of our departments in the town indicating in 1981, the attic, or the 3rd floor on that property, was looking to put, what I'm seeing, 1 apartment on the 3rd floor. In 1978 rather, 1978.
When I purchased the property, I obtained a zoning certificate from the zoning office here in 2008. This is my testimony. I have a copy of it that I will produce, and it was 6 units. I subsequently renovated that complete building using permits that were granted me by the zoning officials and building officials here in West Warwick, and it's always been 6 units since the day I renovated it, and that would be 2008, 2009.
I understand that, sir. The issue that I'm raising, as I said, may predate your ownership. And the reason why that I'm bringing that up now, another date that I have is January 3rd, 1994, that has from the Turcotte Art Center. I don't know if that was the
That's who
owner
I
before you?
purchased it from, yeah, it was the
Okay.
former owner.
There's information here that they were looking for 2 bedrooms, or they were petitioning for 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, or it didn't say on the 1st or 2nd floor, it says 2 2-bedrooms and 2 1-bedrooms. So just for information for this board, on the 3rd floor, which I've indicated originally called an attic, they may have put on a dormer at that time, I don't know, but I see a dormer on the,
I actually put that dormer on, and that was a permit that actually, I remember Stan Pikel, when he was the building inspector, he's the one who, you know, granted the permit for that dormer. I
Yeah.
actually put that dormer on.
Okay.
Because you had the staircase was very low to go up to It's not the attic, it's two, one
Right,
bedroom
is
apartments.
there a front dormer on the building also?
No, there's front windows, you know, a shed, like little windows,
Okay.
yeah.
It's like, what do they call them?
Doghouse windows,
Call them people house windows.
Gables, like a gable
yeah,
window?
yeah, a little, yeah, but I installed, I put the dormer on.
Okay. Are there one bedroom or two bedroom units up there?
One bedroom.
I wonder if this would be the right time for, if, I know our building official is here.
Not until he finishes his,
Okay.
I have a comment and a question regarding the zoning certificate. First, as I've advised the board on a number of occasions, our Supreme Court has held that a zoning certificate is of no legal significance. It's for notice only. Secondly, when you say you received the prior zoning certificate, the present zoning certificate says it is a legal, non-conforming use. It does, I believe that, it is a legal, non-conforming by dimension and current use. That does not say six, it's a commercial. They're granting a zoning certificate for the use, mixed use. They're not saying 6 approved units. It's just, all they're saying is, you have a mixed use, and that's okay. That's legal, non-conforming. It has no reflection on how many units and what type of unit they are. It's all is the present zoning certificate says.
So
Is it
does
is,
it change the zoning certificate? Because the one I got in 2008, which is the last one
I don't
obtained
know.
for the building, it said 6 units on it. It said
I don't
6
know.
units.
I don't know what the zoning certificate said. But once again, whatever the zoning certificate said, our Supreme Court, for whatever reason, has said that it is, when someone applies for a zoning certificate, it's only to give them notice of what the property is being used for, but it is of no legal, no reliance on it.
Do you have any other, more questions, Peter?
No, I just want to somewhat state the obvious, but without being, I don't mean to be redundant. But because parking is always an issue, especially in situations like this, that are primarily multifamily areas, like the Natick section. That Natick section was built mostly with mill towns, mill houses and whatnot. Predate zoning by 40, 50, 60 years. I don't know what date that building was actually built back in the day. But that being said, in your application, sir, you make no mention about parking whatsoever.
I
You make
don't-
no, you,
I admit, I filled out the application. I don't recall there being a question about the parking application that I may have overlooked. My question is does it make sense then, if it's going to be a problem, if I respectfully ask to continue this till next month, and I will get the proper easements on paper, for this, property, and present that. If that helps. I understand you don't wanna do anything, predated, so I'm, very cooperative and I wanna do the right thing.
Will that change his application, or is that something we can accept?
That just is the facts of the case.
Okay.
Those facts will be presented.
Okay.
Whether or not a continuance is granted is purely discretionary with the board, and the board can't, I would disagree with a comment my brother made about an easement. Since it would be exclusive easement granted from the southern piece of property to the northern piece of property, my brother said, well, why do that without knowing how the board's going to go on it? The fact of the matter is that since it's basically the same parties, in the event that the board, even with the easement, decided not to grant the petition, that those parties could just revoke, cancel the easement, so that is a situation where it wouldn't be granted subject to, it would be granted, yes, with the approval of this easement.
If I may just ask again for clarification, the property, Mr. Butler, that you have on the south side of the Natick Bridge,
Yes.
you bought a separate piece of property for parking only? Or
That
is
piece-
that in conjunction with a building?
Yeah, there's a building there, it's a 5-unit building. It already had parking for that building. I repaved the parking lot and added enough space for the parking for 656 Providence Street, anticipating, coming here.
Well, Mr. Chairman, in my opinion, the only way that, and it might, it might be conducive to this gentleman. I know that he's probably spent quite a bit of money doing it, but he seemingly has 3 pieces of property within 500 feet of one another.
Yes.
This board would have to see all of the specifications and a blueprint also of all 3 properties, so that we can determine whether or not the property on the south side of the bridge has adequate parking for its own tenants. If you've done asphalt work on that property, hopefully that you haven't exceeded the amount of asphalt that you can put on that property when it comes to the dimensions of the building and the square footage of that property also.
That
So-
property's large.
So,
It's
well,
not an issue.
but there's an issue that we have to consider. So, for instance, if that, would you say it was 5 units?
It's 5 units, yeah.
Okay, so, in making that change of parking, did that require a permit, one? And if it did it now call the amount of parking per unit, does it bring it up to its standard, present-day standard of 2 parking places per unit? So if you have 5 there, and if you're looking for 4 or 5 or 6, whatever, for the Providence Street parking, that has to have an anticipated X amount of units. As so with the property on Penta Street also. So it's a little bit of concern.
If I might comment on something you mentioned, I would advise the board that if the board saw fit to grant this continuance, when you mention a plan, I would advise the board that the plan be presented to the board specific enough so that it would, on the plan, dedicate spaces 1 through 5 to this building, 8 through 10 to that building. And I suggest that so that when comes time for my preparation of a decision,
Yeah.
I can, in my decision, state that as in Exhibit A, or Exhibit number 15, that the spaces number 1 through 10 and are dedicated to this, and by doing that, the board will have, in effect, approved the non-mentioned spaces to the other properties.
I would agree with that entirely. I'd just like to, I'm not sure, well, there has been a recent history, the board, a recent history within the last year or 2, that the board denied annexation of parking spaces for another large piece of property. Ironically, quarter mile from that from where he's at. Before I would ask the chairman to consider a motion from us, I'd like to hear from our building official if
Yeah.
you guys have done presenting.
Yes.
Could you state your name and position with the town?
Robert Assalone, building zoning official.
And you are here in that capacity this evening,
I am,
pursuant to the request of the zoning board that you make a report to them.
correct.
Yeah, he's reporting, he's not swearing to testimony.
Mr. Asselon, can you tell us what your findings have been?
My findings were that the building back in '78 was 2 commercial and 3 apartments. In '94, it was 2 commercial and 4 apartments, where I cannot find any new permits for the 1 additional apartment that was added on at some time. I find it's a 3,200 square foot lot, legal non-conforming. He testified that it had a driveway approximately 12 feet by 68 feet. That wouldn't give you 3 parking spots legally.
It would not?
No.
What are they, 16 feet apiece or
Yeah.
20 feet apiece?
Yeah, you have to stack them.
You're right, stack 'em.
So they couldn't move the cars in and out. So as far as I can see, he would need 11 parking, and I don't know how you can put by code, put a parking from one building into another building. How can you give an easement over public access? You can only easement, I understand, from one property to another if it's connected. I don't see how you can give an easement over public.
Well,
street.
In both cases, it's the same thing.
It wouldn't be over the public, it would be that the people, you give an easement to people living here to park over there, and then they walk on a public sidewalk.
Okay, I thought it'd have to be connected. I don't see how we can give that by zoning regulations. And we're talking, he would need 9, well, first of all, I don't see how he's got 3 parking spots to begin with, call them legal parking spots. We're gonna adding on to that 2 more apartments, so that's one problem I see.
Not addressing the number, I do know for a fact that in downtown East Greenwich, quite frequently, because there's no parking, if a person comes in with proof that they have obtained parking from another owner, and this would, so that parking does not have to be adjacent.
Okay.
As long as there's some type of ownership, be it through easement or actual ownership.
It has to be ownership.
Okay.
Either by lease or.
So he would have to-
easement Or outright.
So if he sold that,
Couldn't be a lease piece of property that the lease could run out. Could it be a rented piece of property that the rental time period would run out? In other words, this board has the authority to act
so that piece of property,
very
those
definitively.
those parking spots would have to be a separate deed from the existing piece of property, because if he sold that piece of property with 9 parking spots on it,
Excellent point.
it would have to be,
No, the easement would run with the land.
Okay.
So that if he sold the piece of property
Right.
that had the easement on it, the buyer buys it, the easement stands.
okay. But at the least he would need about 20 parking spots on that other piece of property, because if he has 5 units, that's 10, and at least 9 parking spots, he needs about 19 parking spots legally on that other piece of property to use it.
Okay. The parking to me was a total surprise. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I think it helps Mr. Butler's quest in getting that property rented. Mr. Butler, what I would suggest is you make 1 unit on the first floor. You'll be able to probably do better getting a larger amount of monies from a 1,500 square foot single floor, first floor apartment. And you'll be creating 2 less parking spaces by doing that. And if I were you again, I'd do the same thing with the second floor, and I'd do the same thing with the third floor, and have 3 larger units, getting more rental.
I'm sorry, I appreciate your opinion, but obviously, since I purchased the property, I renovated it twice, renovated the commercial space in 2008, and I renovated the,
And I appreciate that, sir.
so now, you're asking me to do that. The only thing I've asked a question, with all respect to the board.
Sure.
Now, I'm asking for something. It looks like, or it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, and I know it's being recorded, it seems like we're looking for reasons not to give it, not to help somebody who's been a taxpayer for 10 years with this property and 4 other properties in the city of town of West Warwick. Why not try to come up with reasons to help me rather than reasons to...
I'm trying to find a reason to vote positive in your favor. I truly am.
But commercial won't work there. I did find, we just handed over the original zoning certificate that I got in good faith from the town of West Warwick. The day I purchased the property, I came here, got the zoning certificate in good faith. I don't know what zoning certificates you folks, found since then, but that's what was given me by the town of West Warwick. That was what I went by when I renovated the property. I was granted permits to renovate the property. The fire department's going to the property. Obviously, they approved 6 units when I put the fire alarm. I installed the fire alarm system. They got municipally connected. So I'm very familiar with the property. So it's been inspected by the fire department, the building department. I went through 3 building inspectors. I haven't met Mr. Isolone yet, but Stan Pikel, Kerry Anderson, Al Duport, and I still have a relationship with them because I have property in other cities. So I went through all the proper channels here, obviously, and now there's a question whether it's 6 units or 5 units. We're going backwards. And I'm a little concerned about that.
But I am telling you that with parking being a problem, not having tenants walk back and forth to a parking place would be a positive thing rather than a negative. Yes, you'd have to spend more money if you made less apartments, there's no question about it. These large apartments can work very well for you. But again, I know that it's extra money involved.
So,
There might be an easier consideration if there was less units in there.
Mr. Chairman, since it's just been handed in, may I read the zoning certificate? I've marked this as exhibit number 14. It's a zoning certificate dated April 16th, 2007, regarding the request of a zoning certificate for property located at 656 Providence Street, Plat 41, Lot 79, West Warwick, Rhode Island, 02893, to whom it may concern. Pursuant to your request for a zoning certificate, please find the following findings of fact. The property is known as 656 Providence Street. It is located in an R6 zone. This structure was built in 1935. The property appears to contain approximately 3,214 square feet. This is a mixed-use structure containing 2 mercantile units on the first floor and 4 living units on the second floor. A review of the file indicates that the use of the building appeared to be in existence prior to the adoption of the West Warwick zoning code of 1994 as amended. Side comment, the zoning code was 1964, not 1994.
1964.
And it is the determination of this office that the use of the mercantile structure and a 4-family residential unit is considered legal nonconforming. A structure nonconforming by dimension which is involuntarily destroyed or damaged in any manner or form, any cause may be repaired or rebuilt within the limits of the original dimensions and upon the original location as outlined in Section 8 of the Town of West Warwick Zoning Code, 1994 as amended. Should you have any questions, please feel free to contact this office. Yours truly in building safety, Stephen D. Murray, Building Official, Town of West Warwick.
Mr. DeFiore, could you just reread the number of units on the second floor that you read?
I don't believe it's...
it doesn't, it says 4 living units on the second floor.
I'm sorry, hold on. So it does say how many units on the second floor?
2 mercantile units on the first floor and 4 living units on the second floor.
That's incorrect. Do we all agree that's incorrect? Do we all agree that that is in error on that report?
That's incorrect.
Yeah, it's incorrect. There's 4 units above the first floor, so yeah, it's incorrect. They're not on the second floor, the second and third floor.
That's 1964?
I'm getting the exact date for you.
The zoning
The
certificate.
zoning,
2007 by Steve Murray?
it mentions that the zoning code of 19,
The zoning code.
Prior to the adoption of the Town of West Warwick zoning ordinance of 1994 as amended.
1994 was an amendment. The zoning code was enacted as of July 1st, as of August 10th, 1965, and amended in 1994.
Can I just clarify
It
something
was
quickly?
enacted in 65.
I have a question. So our main concern here as a board is in regards to the parking. That's our
Well,
main concern.
That's I would see a major concern.
Main
It's not
concern,
the
major
only
concern.
Because there are other factors here that would tell us that the third floor, the attic, was in fact a one unit. And when supposedly there were repairs done or separation done, division done, prior to Mr. Butler, there were no permits drawn either. Am I stating that correctly, Mr. Ratzel?
Yes, you are.
I would disagree with that.
I'm asking the building official for clarification.
Yeah, we have no findings of any permits for the,
Before Mr. Butler bought the property, before he bought the
Which
property.
would mean, according
previous.
to what you're saying, is that one of the units on the third floor is an illegal unit. That's what you're suggesting. So if
That's-
Mr.
yes.
Butler's done renovations to both of those units,
Correct.
he's pulled permits for both of those units, he shouldn't have been able to unless they were legal units.
That's correct.
He needs to rely on that, and he's allowed to rely on that. So if he walked into the town and said, I want to do the 2 units on the third floor, the building official would look it up and say, what 2 units? Or, why 2 units? Or, there shouldn't be 2 units. He's been granted permits, spent money, relied on the permits granted to him by the town, telling him that those are legal units on the third floor. So I think he's allowed to rely on those actions that he's taken legally.
I would agree with you 100%. But in that certificate that you're talking about, there's an obvious error in here.
The certificate doesn't matter.
Sure it matters.
He's taken, you
You're,
said.
you're relying on this certificate,
No,
and I'm saying that this
No.
certificate is an
No.
error.
So from my understanding, you're saying that you were relying on what the town provided to you for the permits that you were just granted.
Right.
Yes.
no. That certificate, excuse me. That certificate was obtained when Mr. Butler bought the property. The permits to do work in the building on the third floor were obtained after
After.
that certificate.
That's what I was asking.
When you walk in to get a permit, and you go into the building official, he will look to see, well, you're trying to do unit, let's call it third floor left and third floor right. And he would say to you, you don't have approval for third floor left and third floor right. At that point in time, Mr. Butler would say, huh? I got a certificate that says it. He'd say, I don't care what the certificate says. You don't have it. The fact that the town granted him a building permit for each of the units on the third floor is indicative that there was approval for both of those units on the third floor, which he can rely upon.
What, were they building permits issued for the third floor?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I specifically remember when I got the dormer was for the third floor, Stan Piper was a building inspector.
the
At that
2
time, he
units?
wanted me to get an engineered drawing.
I don't,
So, so I had to get an engineer involved to do a drawing for that, submitted that, got that approved, also got the final approvals. But all of my applications go through the fire department first for the fire alarm to make sure that you have the egress. So I got multiple approvals. It's not just one person, it's multiple approvals. And like I said, we went through 3 building inspectors, during that process of the renovations.
If I may. Again, Mr. Butler, you bought it 2008?
2007 and
2007.
Yeah.
Through the building officials department, last Friday maybe, I had Pamela Pooling, well, that's not her married anymore. Pamela. On August 7th, 2007, there was a permit pulled for siding. I think that was probably you also.
Yeah, when was that?
2007, 2012, January 12th, 2012, and then again, December 15th, 2016, there were permits pulled. I don't have the specifics of what the permits were pulled for. But Mr. Butler is correct, he pulled permits after he bought the property.
If he pulled permits, then I think the board has to accept them as being approved by the building office.
I agree with you. I'm satisfied that you had every reason to believe, and rightfully so, that you do have 2 residential units on the 2nd floor and 2 residential units on the 3rd floor. I think that at this point we can all agree on. I still think
But
you
it's
should do
still
1 unit on the.
So does that put us back to the parking? The parking is the major issue at this
Main
point.
hindrance.
Yeah.
So we've clarified the number of units, and so our main concern is the number of parking spaces that are gonna be allowed, or that they're going to need, or required to be had for that, so.
And there might be something that Mr. Butler has already done to secure that. He needs to do more homework, get legal
come
counsel,
back with
and
us
some
with that.
direction from.
To come back to us, showing sufficient parking for all the units that we require.
And once again, sir, you're gonna need to, I'm
If-
sure Mr. Asselon will help you, but you need to provide a plan for all 3 buildings now.
If I-
5 Penta Street.
What if we intend to use 5 Penta Street?
Well, I would do that. I don't know. That's your business. If you're relying on the board accepting up the street 300 feet away or 40 feet away, that's your decision.
In my opinion, I would include it because you had stated that you want to use it for ban parking. It may,
I have been, but I don't think I need it for this, but.
so if you don't need to and you can meet the number in the other lot, then
If I might make a suggestion for the purposes of the board, if a plan were submitted showing parking for apparently each of the 3 buildings, with sufficient parking for each of the 3 buildings, approved by the building official, that there was sufficient parking, and once he approved it, then up to Steve to make sure that this building has permanent control of the allocated spots, then I think the board would have something it could work on.
For the dominant unit, we need to grant the easement for the parking easement for the survey of
Yeah.
land, record it, friends with the land, I've done it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not an issue. Again,
Mo-
I think doing it in advance is
Well,
premature. I've appeared
yeah.
in front of many boards, and oftentimes they grant approval subject to
Well,
proof of an adequate parking
I
easement.
thi-
Recorded, you don't get the.
But I think that in this particular situation, where there are a question of total number of parking spaces for 3 different buildings, it would be a necessity that this board have it definitive.
I have an aside for you also. Would you be surprised that tenants and customers of your property prior parked on the sidewalk often?
I believe it. I believe it.
It's a wide sidewalk.
Yeah, no, I know, I believe it. but
Gonna be
that's
about
obviously
8, 9 feet long, or maybe 7 or 8 feet, yeah.
Right, so at this point, I guess my question is, what would you like to do?
I guess we'd like to continue to the next meeting for presenting an adequate parking.
You think you'd be able to do that in a month's
Does
time?
that give you enough time?
Can I add something? Going to require a certified survey for the parking,
For the space.
for the spaces.
Just the spaces.
Well, you're going to have to call out, what's the original,
Property in 617 Providence Street, I don't think we need to do a full markable building, just sort of footprint of the building sits, showing the parking lot, correct, and where the spaces.
Yeah.
So this one
Well,
is indicated and where the spaces of the building.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
With the,
It's basically a plot.
with the, yeah, plot plan with the number of units in each building so that Bob can,
But does it have to be certified? Because that takes time. I have to hire someone.
That's why I'm saying you're gonna be able to do it in a month.
Well, I'm asking, can you give me relief? I'm getting a certified survey if I just show you the 18 by 9 spots, I know how to draw up a parking plan, I've done it many times, if you can accept my.
The building official cannot, he can't get his initials.
Well, they have, just do have some discretion, I'm asking them for that discretion, so it's our first opportunity to meet.
I don't want to go off on the wrong feet, but I would require a certified survey on the property.
On all three
Last one.
properties.
Well, I thought you only wanted to use one extra piece of property for parking. I wouldn't make you do all three, obviously. It would just be on the, 617.
Well,
Okay?
Unless you plan to use
We're parking.
any parking at, well,
Well,
or at
there was-
656, right?
My concern is also 656, how you're gonna show us 3 parking spots there also legally.
Well, it's gotta be to your approval.
Yeah, I don't wanna give him any surprises if he comes back.
Mr. Arcelone has indicated that he doesn't care for having 3 piggyback.
I understand, I gathered that, yeah, so.
So do you want 1 or 2 months, or?
Our next meeting is February 27th, the one after that is March 27th.
We will ask for 1 month, I've already gone a year on this, we'll ask for 1 month, I think I can get it done in a month.
If we grant to,
And the
he just come
distance,
back
the
if he needs
distance
it.
away will not be a problem
If he doesn't have it at the end of January, it can be continued to February.
February to
Yeah, February to March.
February to March.
Okay. I was gonna say, you could offer 2 months if you're not gonna use it, then at least you're
Well,
covered.
if he's on the calendar for February and he doesn't have the information, he can request a continuance
Okay.
to March.
I just didn't wanna see him get stuck.
Thanks, appreciate that.
If I can, just because I'm the attorney and I ask these questions, does this board ever consider variances from parking?
I would speak for myself as a member. I think I would consider it if it's a small percentage.
I don't think the board should make any comments.
There you go.
So at this point, we need a motion.
Motion to,
Do we need to close the public comment first?
no, because people may want to speak on the motion.
Okay.
You need a motion to continue to 7 PM, February 27th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we convene this issue of, whatever the number is, 01-1.
2019
-1.
19-1, to the February 27th meeting.
Excuse me.
I'd second.
Public comment on this, or?
Yet.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Now we'll open it up to any public comment.
Take a vote.
To continue, it would take a vote.
Yeah,
We're going to continue.
you take a vote, but then we'll have more,
Okay.
it's still open for, take the vote to continue, but it hasn't been closed, so we can,
All right.
you know, come in.
Yes.
Sammy Ortiz? Yes. Justin Kutu?
Yes.
Richard Banks?
Yes.
And Alan Hart.
Yes.
State your name and residence, please.
Robert Boyer. I live at 15 Water Street, which is about 300 feet away from the locus.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Okay, number one, I'm really concerned as to safety here. To the new members, I probably can enlighten you as to parking. As Mr. Astalone has said, this is a hearing with no plans. The architectural plans are not architectural plans. There are no signs of where the parking is, how it is, and just for your information, there are a lot of rules on parking.
Excuse me, Bob.
There's a driveway.
The fact of the matter is that because we don't have the plans, that's why it's being continued. So the board is taking no action until such time as you have the opportunity to see the plans.
Okay, then I'll get on the safety part of it. I have called the West Warwick Police Department 5 times in the last 6 months for the parking at Penta Street and Providence Street. It's very narrow. The cars park, there is an ordinance where you have to park so many feet back from the intersection of two curbings or pavement. There are 22 homes that a fire truck has to get to, and it can only go through Penta Street. And a fire truck, at times, they park on both sides, a fire truck can never make that turn. That's why I've called the police department, and they have gone down and have some of the cars moved. This plan, and I'm sure the parking, there has to be, what you're telling me, there's 3 different sites for parking, is that correct?
He has 3 available sites, yes.
I hear you.
He has 3 available sites, yes.
Okay, so there are three places where you're gonna be parking.
Potentially, yes.
And Mr. Hassalone is right, we should get certified copies.
Bob, that's,
No,
Yeah.
I just wanna make it clear as to what's going on here. The safety is the big factor. How do we handle that? I think it's something that everybody has to look into. Everybody, including the owner. I certainly will be at the next hearing, and the parking is gonna be very, very vital to the safety of 22 homes. And we're not talking about a 30-foot pavement in the street.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions, comments from the audience? Okay.
motion to close.
Make a motion to close 2019-1.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second, you second. Second, Jeffrey. Aye.
Take a 5-minute recess.
Pause. Do I pause this?
Thank you. Just be okay.
This is petition number 2019-2, the applicant Carmelita Bisignani, owner Thomas and Carmelita Bisignani. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly.
Perfect.
Premises are 4 Butcher Street, Plat 13, Lot 643, in an R8 zone. And the proposed use, the applicant is seeking a special use permit for an accessory family dwelling, 2nd floor addition to consist of an in-law apartment under section 5.6.16 of the zoning ordinance of the town of West Warwick as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I have marked exhibit number 1, the application, number 2, the radius map, number 3, the abutters list, number 4, the notice and affidavit of notice, number 5, the zoning certificate, number 6, the tax collector report, number 7, proposal plan, number 8, excuse me, a 3-page site plan, and number 9, the green cards. Could you raise your right hands? First, state your names and addresses.
Yep. Carmelita Bisignani, 4 Boucher Street, West Warwick.
Thomas Bisignani, 4 Boucher Street, West Warwick.
Would you raise your right hands? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay. And this is a continuation from the November?
Yes.
No, this is a new petition.
It's a
Oh,
new
I'm sorry. That's right there with you.
Yes.
Yeah, withdrawn. I stand corrected. Okay, so
Okay,
tell us
so,
what you would like to do.
okay, so we were here in November, we withdrew that application because we had too much, we had 100% square footage, so at the advice of council, the board members, we went back to our architect, and we also went verbatim through the section 5.6.16, 1, 2, 3, 4, till 9. Went through every step to try to get this approved.
Okay. And could you go over the plan with us and
Yep.
tell us what it is you want to do?
So, right now, we have a ranch home And my mother-in-law, she's 74, 74, and we want to bring her home, back home, because we bought the house from her 18 years ago, and now we want to take her home, back home with us, and we want to build up and go right above the house we have now, and that's pretty much what
half
we
of the
want to do.
house would be for her and the other
And then we,
area would be like a.
like a common area, so like a big great room with access to my home
I just want you
in
to
the
know,
garage.
74 is young.
She's very young, she's very active. Noted.
And what, the current square footage of your existing home is about 1,200 square feet, is
Yep,
that correct?
1,212 square feet. What we're proposing is 598 of it to go into my mother-in-law's, for an in-law. And then to have the egress on the side, which we didn't have in the previous plans, to have, like a door with some stairs just to go down, which we do have the double, like, we can fit 3 cars in that driveway, on the side driveway. And we do have 2-car driveway, we have 1-car garage, and then it can fit 2 cars in the driveway. So we have plenty of parking. And then to separate the great room from my mother-in-law's, we're gonna have an open area where we can have French doors to close and lock, if that makes sense.
That's
what-
from the great room to the kitchen dining area?
Yes.
That I see on here?
Correct. And then, like, where you see the dotted lines where there's only gonna be 72 square feet for her kitchen area, on the side of that would be like where she could put like a little dinette. And then she also has the, in front of my garage, I also have the other side door, which is another entrance for her as well.
Building official still here? Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Question? Go ahead.
I think at one particular time, the board had questioned whether or not the use of fire doors was going to be used.
We will use
What, for the
for the garage area.
for the garage area?
Well, for the garage area, and I was just looking for some clarification if they needed to be used. You could get French doors,
Yeah.
but you could get an exterior French door.
Oh, yeah, okay,
It would be metal, and that's a fire-rated door.
okay,
And they could use them any way you'd like to use them.
okay,
Get a door that has the mechanism that they would both open in one direction.
Okay.
Either in or out.
yeah,
If the board approves and they don't meet, excuse me, fire codes or building codes, that's their decision,
Right.
you know.
I mean, we could go with a single door if we had to. We were just thinking. But,
I kind of like that idea.
So did
if
I.
it works, yeah, if we can find the doors that are rated for it.
yeah.
Home Depot, Lowe's.
I'm sure the fire marshals will help
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
I'll let you know which ones we use.
And she does have a closet, because remember, I had, across from the bedroom, we have her having like the big walk-in closet,
WIC.
Yep, walk-in closet.
Nice.
and then the bathroom, and I think I'm gonna move up there, and then have her come down to the.
Looks
same
very
thing
nice.
there.
Very
Thanks.
nice.
And the main entrance would be where?
The main entrance
Would be
would,
through the garage, or would it be off to the side?
well, she will be parking outside, but she is my mother-in-law, and if it is snowing, when it does snow, I'll be nice, and I will let her have the garage, and then I can let her go in through the garage, and, if she's nice.
We can
And then I'll let her do
stipulate that,
that.
too. You can-
Other than that, she will use the other side.
You seem nicer than my daughter.
And you also have the entrance, it looks like, with the,
In front of the garage.
right, kind of a little elevated deck area or whatever.
A porch.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Very nice. Well done. This is the second, it's the second egress here.
I designed this. Just noted.
He still says he wants to move in.
Price is right.
Any other questions, Peter,
I have none.
Amy?
Looks like they made the adjustments that we discussed, so.
Okay. You, Justin?
No, nothing that I can really say.
Okay.
Any objectives? Anybody?
Okay. Are there any abutters or objectors in the audience who would like to speak?
Motion to close.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close public session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. So at this time, now we need a motion. To approve.
I would
Do
suggest,
we have to give witness first?
I would just suggest that in this particular instance, because of the testimony, that I will, the unopposed testimony, that I will put in the decision a motion to close with all of the zoning conditions stipulated.
Perfect.
Motion
In that case-
motion to approve.
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the application.
I'll second.
Ask for
Peter
any-
Kelsey?
No, hold on. You gonna ask for any discussion at this point? Any further discussion? No, just go ahead.
If there is there any further discussion?
Nope.
Peter Kelsey?
Yes.
Jeffrey Hunt?
Yes.
Amy Ortiz? Yes. Justin Kutu?
Yes.
Richard Manx?
Yes.
Alan Hart?
Yes.
Thank you. And one last thing, my mother-in-law said she would make meatballs if it got passed. For everybody. So, just let you know.
We want a time and a place, please.
We meet here on a regular basis.
I know.
Yeah, February 27th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This is now petition number 2019-3. The applicant is Samantha Broadman, the owner Jay Broadman. The premise is located at 586 Providence Street, Plat 36, lots 86 and 100, and it's zoned as an NDCD. The proposed use, the applicant is seeking to change of use permit for a private esthetician office, not open to the public. It'll be utilized for wedding trial makeup and hair consultation. This is under section 8.1, alteration of non-conforming use of the zoning ordinance of the town of West Warwick as amended. And we'll have Jeffrey sit in as the zoning board member in place of Michael for this application.
Mr. Chairman, I have marked as exhibits number 1, the application, number 2, the radius map, number 3, the abutters list, number 4, the tax collector's report, number 5, the site plan, number 6, the zoning certificate, and number 7, the affidavit of notice and green cards which were submitted tonight. Would you state your names and addresses, please?
I'm the owner, Jay Brotman. My home address is 149 Liverpool Street, Warwick, Rhode Island.
Samantha Brotman, 149 Liverpool Street, Warwick, Rhode Island.
Would you raise your right hands? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
So if you could, please give us some background on this, what you plan to do,
Sure.
what you're looking for.
Sure. 586 Providence Street's a 7-unit building. The bottom right, which I do have a picture, I don't think I included it before. I have one pretty much for everyone if you wanted me to give that out now to see basically where. It's just the commercial space at the bottom of the building. And basically, you said it all. Right now, it's used as an office, which I have documentation for.
One to,
You can start. There's one I think the end people will have to share. I think I have 5 or 6 there. Current use area.
I am marking this Northeast Revaluation Group package as exhibit number 8.
And that first page is simply just to show you the bottom right, Unit 7. It's a commercial little unit there. My office has been there for many, many years. And that's what that's for. But what we want to do is simply switch over the office use. My daughter, which I have a little write-up on if you want me to read to know a little more about her, but we want she'd like to turn it into a private esthetician office, like you said. She does about 50 weddings a year in other specialty, different beauty.
Hair and makeup.
Hair and makeup.
I do hair
She
and
does
makeup.
hair and makeup for these things. In the meantime, they come in for trials. So people say, hey, we want to check you out first. So basically, that's really what the spot's going to be used for. In addition to other esthetician services, you can give them a couple.
We do facials, a little bit of waxing, eyelashes, stuff like that. And I am going to be licensed.
Well,
I'm licensed.
yeah, she's within 2
For
weeks,
that.
we'll have her esthetician license for those extra items. But, yeah, so the application is just simply to change over from the office, what it's been used for, to her esthetician office. Again, it's not open to the public. There won't even be a sign, with the exception of on the door, a plaque so people know they're in the right spot where they're coming to. What else would you like to know? And I can certainly get into.
Excuse me 1 moment. Mr. Chairman, I just realized that this is another application that was filed for a use variance. And unfortunately, use variances cannot be approved because there is a beneficial use. I think it more properly should have been submitted, as the other one was, under a special use permit. So, again, the notice is sufficient, and I think a motion would have to be made to amend the application to a special use permit as opposed to a use variance.
Well, I checked this like 6 times before I did anything with Mark, the upstairs, what is he?
He probably said special use, not use variance.
And I had everyone look at it when it was done. So
Who's everyone, sir?
people in this building, pretty much everyone that would look at it from that checked off everything. So what exactly is the difference? Maybe you could tell me why this wouldn't be okay to use.
A use variance by state law is only allowed if there is no other beneficial use of the property. Obviously, there is another beneficial use. It's being used right now.
Correct.
So that what you are looking for, and if you'll give me a moment, what you are looking for is the alteration of a non-conforming use, and that would be through a special use permit. It's just a matter of what form of relief.
So this packet that I have here in front of us, are you saying I checked off an incorrect box?
Yeah.
So maybe someone could point out
If
for
you
me.
just move tonight to amend your application for a special use permit, and ask the board to accept the amendment.
And is that box on here? I want to make sure I understand what you're
She did
saying.
It's on there.
It's right here. Section 4, use variance and special use permit.
Yeah.
Should be special use permit, should be checked off, and use variances.
Yeah.
So if you go to page 2, section 4.
I do see that, since you are happy with the notice that everyone was getting. can I ask that and we do it now?
Ask the board if you can amend your petition.
Would everyone agree? Would that be
You have-
okay to
You have
X
to
that?
make, you have to make a motion to amend your petition.
All right, I make a motion to
Or
amend to a
Well,
special
actually,
use
you're-
permit.
You're just asking us.
Not asking them.
Yes, I am asking you to
asking-
amend.
Any discussion or
Mr.
concerns?
Chairman, I have no problem amending this application. I think it'll just give a little bit more clarification on what the gentleman's going for. But in no way stating that I'm at any, either for or against the approval of the application.
Okay.
So I move
Yes.
that we
This has nothing to do with whether or not you favor it or don't favor it. It's just that you basically would be permitting a correction of the application.
As a housekeeping procedure, I move that we change the application from use variance to special use permit.
Second,
I second.
vote.
Peter Kelsey,
Yes.
Jeffrey Hunt,
Yes.
Amy Ortiz,
Yes.
Justin Kutu,
Yes.
Richard Vane,
Yes.
Ellen Horrick.
Yes. All right. So we took care of that.
Thank
That's
you
what we
all.
got now.
Sorry about that.
Sir, in your explanation, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Brotman, B-R-O-T-M-A-N.
Okay, I didn't see the L. Again, we just went through kind of harrowing experience for the last, I'm not seeing any dimensions of your present lot. Any parking spaces? You mentioned that it's 7 units.
Well,
Are they all right now deemed as residential units?
No, it's always been a mixed use.
Well, it's in a commercial zone.
It's a mixed-use building.
It's in the Natick Revitalization, or the Natick Village Association area. So it's on your record as a mixed use.
It absolutely is, yes,
Okay, it's a mixed-use building.
correct. It's always been a store before I owned it. I've owned it for about 12,
Is this
13.
Tex, is that where Tex used to have his little store?
I think so.
It was a store, yeah, for many years, I understand. It was a well-known spot,
Tex, I couldn't tell you what his name was.
so yeah, it was mixed commercial.
Okay.
That's unfortunately, Rhode Island came out with a new code where now it's in '03 and it's apartments, 6 apartments plus a little bit of commercial, so my taxes went up about 30% since they did that, but it is a commercial.
Thank the town council for that, I'm not sure.
It is from West Warwick, correct. I have everything, all the
I
laws
don't
here.
think I did that when I was on the board.
Let's hope not. So, yeah,
Well,
it's,
actually, I did. Okay, that being said, how many parking places do you have now, sir?
we have 12, and again, with the no change of the use, meaning we're not, putting in a nightclub where you need more, it's still a office,
So you would advocate to us, without me putting words in your mouth, that there may be less usage or less parking than a residential unit that would require 2 parking. If you're using it for a private purpose, a business purpose, but for a private purpose, it's not open to the public, and is not a storefront per se, open to the public.
I would
You would
advocate,
probably advocate there may be less parking than if it would be a residential unit.
much less, yeah. And as of now, 6 of the spots are accounted for, 6 are empty. Her business so happens to be, when there is, we project between 0 and 10 visits per week. That's it.
Yeah.
And none on the weekend because she's traveling. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, she's booked. So it's, that's kind of the idea. She just wants a base, and that's how we ended up here when I thought it would be.
Would you be considered part of the wedding planner process?
No.
No?
No. I don't help plan, but I do help them with the hair and makeup.
Okay.
So if they need anything with that, then yes.
she's definitely part of the plans, but not part of the planning.
Yeah.
No.
How many people per visit?
One.
Good question. It would be maxed, one, but there may be two because of a lap over of, someone coming in and leaving. But still, it's so few and far between. So it'd be max two, but yeah, one would be the rule.
So it's not like the
whole
bride and
party?
the bridesmaids and the
Just the
mother-in-law?
bride, just the bride.
I just travel for that, so I go to them the day of and perform the service there.
Sure you do.
I do.
She's probably been in every town in Rhode Island, including Block Island a few times, a yacht off of Boston. She's going to Florida next month. The Miss Rhode Island International flies her there with her help. And she's responsible for all the New England states. And she's got quite a reputation, but yeah, it is all out of house. She just wants a place to put her stuff.
You look very excited that he's bragging about you.
I know. I say that all the time.
I have a whole write-up, but that's all right.
You did good there.
Didn't look like you needed it. I have no questions.
Questions? Any further questions?
No, I was just gonna mention that I know the property. This is like 4 doors away from the last property that we've been dealt with. I can give assurance to the board that this gentleman is correct in the amount of parking spaces that he has there. I don't know if that's worth it.
And we did get the proper notification, that's been
Yes.
clarified? All right.
You gave it to me before the meeting.
Comments, yeah. So any comments from the audience? Issues, questions, concerns? No? Okay. A motion to close?
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Second. All right.
And that, we now need a motion.
Oh, I did say it, so moved. Oh, to close.
That was the close.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the application in front of the board for a special use permit.
I will add any stipulations necessary.
Second.
Peter Kelsey.
Yes.
Jeffrey Hunt.
Yes.
Amy Ortiz. Yes. Justin Peter.
Yes.
Richard Banks.
Yes.
Alan Horrick.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I had my own wedding planner in North Carolina.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's a little bit too much for me. The whole wedding.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay. Yeah, we did that one. Okay, we now call petition number 2019-4. Applicant Sandrose Realty Associates LLP, care of Hinckley Allen Snyder. The owner is same. Premises are at 1681 Quaker Lane, Plat 30, Lot 52, in a Zone B. The proposed use, the applicant is seeking a dimensional variance for proposed signage as well as relief from parking requirement. This is under sections 5.9.10.7, section 5.10, and section 9, and a special use permit for such signage pursuant to section 5.10.3 and section 10 of the zoning ordinance of the town of West Warwick as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I have marked as exhibits, number 1, the application, number 2, the application addendum, number 3, the radius map, number 4, the abutters list, number 5, the tax collector report, number 6, the zoning certificate, number 7, a picture of the sign, number 8, boundary survey, number 9, a 4-page site plan, number 10, an amended application, number 11, an amended addendum, and I will be marking the notice of, the affidavit of notice as exhibit number 12. I think, comment on my council's comments that you have been submitted, an addendum that I think eliminates any questions or comments that I might have had in governing you in your decision tonight, because it covers the matter thoroughly.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you for having us. My name's John Paraso. I'm an attorney at Hinckley, Allen and Snyder in Providence. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Sandrose Realty Associates LLP. The subject property is located at 1681 Quaker Lane, which is designated as West Warwick Tax Assessor's Plat 30, Lot 52. It's located at the corner of Quaker Lane and the on and off ramps for Route 95. The subject property is approximately 10.65 acres, has one building totaling approximately 108,900 square feet with a 2,332 square foot canopy, and is located in the Business B zoning district. The property is occupied by Carty's Furniture, which operates a first-class furniture sales business at the property. Currently, the property has one monument sign located on the front corner of the property, one wall sign on the front of the building, and one wall sign on the south elevation. Tonight, I have with me Ron Carty, the owner of the property and Carty's Furniture business, George Bennett with Blount Bennett Architects, Jim Bradford from Formetco. He's here to speak about the electronic display freestanding sign, Thomas Sweeney, a real estate broker and appraiser, and Chris Palmer, an engineer with David D. Gardner and Associates. So first let me just go into, you have the application, pretty comprehensive application. It has a table that shows what it is we're asking for, all the relief we're asking for, but I can just run through that quickly. We would like to replace the wall signage and the monument sign with a new monument sign and additional wall signage. Essentially, we're updating the signage for this property, bringing it into more modern, contemporary feel. We'd like to add an electronic message display freestanding sign on the property as well. And we're adding a new showcase window and within the building, which will result in an additional 1,086 square feet of space in the building. So the relief we need to accomplish all of this is as follows. Dimensional variances for height, square footage, and setback requirement to replace the existing monument sign with a new monument sign. Just to be clear, the new monument sign will be in the exact same location as the existing monument sign. And when I refer to a monument sign, I really mean, you're probably all familiar with it, but it's the existing structure at the entrance to the property that lists Carty's. We're going to refer to that as the monument sign. We also need dimensional variances for height, square footage, percentage of electronic display, and number of proposed freestanding signs, as well as a special use permit to erect what we're going to call the new electronic display freestanding sign at the front corner of the lot. We're going to walk you through where all these are going to be. We need a dimensional variance for height, square footage, and number of proposed wall signs to erect 3 wall signs on the east and south elevations of the building and 1 wall sign on the north elevation of the building. Again, we'll walk you through where all these are. Dimensional variance from the parking requirements to expand the building by that small 1,086 square feet. Surprisingly, that required 2 additional parking spaces, but we're requesting relief from the parking on that, and we'll get into what that additional square footage is used for and how it doesn't really, it's not an area where customers will be able to utilize. We're asking for special use permits as may be necessary for the proposed wall signs and freestanding signs, and all such other relief as the zoning board deems necessary to permit the sign package that we've put forth. I did work with the solicitor who we consulted with, as well as the town planner, in order to understand the ordinance and make sure that we were asking for all the relief that was requested in order to achieve the sign package we've put forth.
I have reviewed the matter with John and Leah, and I am satisfied that the list he just gave is what is necessary and what would take care of all of the things.
Yeah, we were very conservative. We just tried to put in all the relief we would need just so that we could get it all done and satisfy all the requirements. So in your application, next I'm going to call all the experts. It's much better to hear from them than from me. But just so you have it, I know you have the applications in front of you. There is the dimensional table that I mentioned that shows what we're asking for and all the relief that's required. There's also plans included in the application. The first plan showing basically a survey showing the location of the signs, and then we have the renderings of all the new wall signs and also showing the monument sign. And we have a rendering of the new freestanding electronic sign, and I believe you also have an aerial. If not, we have it on a board out here that we can show as well. So at this point, I'd like to ask Ron Cardy to please join me up here.
Could you state your name and position, please?
Roland Cardy, Cardy's Furniture. I'm technically secretary, but
Raise your right
just a
hand.
partner.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Good evening.
Mr. Cardy, please briefly describe Cardy's Furniture, your business experience, and how long you've had this location at 1681 Quaker Lane.
1681 Quaker Lane has been there since we built it in '97. There was basically a field there when we took it. We've been in business since 1928. Started as a general store by a grandmother, and it's evolved over a few generations. That particular facility is, as he said, is about 108,000 or so square feet, and certainly is big enough. It's not the issue of the size of the building. The challenges of today of being in retail, I don't have to tell you anything you don't read or know about, but basically with the world of the World Wide Web, the internet, the issue with who we deal with for competitors, most of the companies that we compete against are brick and mortar, is typically called based, although we do compete heavily with the web. So since we built the building in '97, you have the likes of IKEA, although it's in Massachusetts, that is a competition on the lower end, but nonetheless there. Bob's Discount Furniture, which is also at the starting price point, but what we would call setup furniture in our industry. Raymore Flanagan, Jordan's, and I can go on and on. Most of the companies that we compete against are either owned by private equity firms, banks, or a consortium of a combination of the two. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that, and then of course, whether it be Amazon or Wayfairs of the world or whatever it may be, we compete with them all across the board. So from our perspective, we either keep up with the times and move forward and do what we need to do to compete with that bridge of brick and mortar and internet-based, or you go away. It's one of the two. So we're at a crossroads in our company. So we have a store, obviously, in West Warwick. That we own the Design Center, which is behind that facility. So between the two facilities, we're north of 150,000 square feet between those two buildings. So to support the tax structure, which is about $392,000 a year paid to the town of West Warwick, and I only say that because it's just a fact of life that we have to deal with in terms of part of our overhead to support a structure like that. We also have a facility in Attleboro, Massachusetts, Swansea, Massachusetts, Seabrook, New Hampshire, Wareham, Massachusetts, Hyannis, and then several mattress stores that are kind of scattered throughout different areas. We don't own the mattress stores. Those are just leased properties. Where do you want me to go?
Right. Why don't you describe the general characteristics of the property? You can use the survey over there or the aerial, and just sort of walk us through the location and why that's important to this. You want to make it more clear?
Everybody see it? I can do it. I don't know if you want to see it. This is just a flat line look of the property.
Mr. Cardy, could you come back a little bit so you get the microphone?
Okay. I can talk louder too. But this is the exit ramp. This is Route 95. This is Route 2. This is the entrance to the industrial park, James P. Murphy Highway. This is the facility that we're talking about. The sign that John mentioned is right here, which is the pylon sign that's sitting on the ground now. The traffic light is right here. The electronic messaging board proposed to go right here. The signage that's going on the face of the building, and there's some elevations as to the new look because we propose to not only add the signage, but basically modernize the face of the building, add some windows to it. So the signage is basically on the front of the building where it is now, flanking the front entrance left and right, and on the side of the building facing the exit ramp.
detail how the proposed signage is going to help you with business generation and maintain this as a successful business in this location.
The signage on the building obviously dictates who we are in terms of by name. It also, I used when we were talking about it earlier, the example of a Stop and Shop where you see different names of products that they carry on the face of the building, which is similar to this, except we're depicting that as furniture and mattresses in that case, and in one case, outdoor furniture, which is basically shown on the right front side of that building. The pylon sign is being changed because we're using that for directional signage to go to the Cardi's building, the Rhode Island Design Center, and the Ashley store that we've just renovated on the 3rd floor of that facility in the back. So basically, it's a complex where I won't use the term that my father used to use, God rest his soul, but we can take somebody from the beginning to the end, or alpha and omega, if you will, of furniture price point. So we can take them from something very moderately priced to something fairly extravagant and expensive and everything in between. So from that perspective, which we need to make sure that they know what's there, thus that sign showing where Cardi's is, where the Design Center is, and where Ashley is. The electronic messaging board allows us to basically on an instant, basically every 5 minutes, in terms of if we change the message, it would be 5 minutes to change it, about? Okay, so we just did one now in Attleboro. I don't know if you come down 95, our Attleboro facility, we just did an electronic messaging board there, 2 of them, where it's full LED and allows us to remotely from our advertising department change those messages on those boards. So today it's a world of this. So, and unfortunately, the way we have to live with it. But the fact of the matter is that so what's that got to do with the messaging board? I'll try to explain it as best I can. People live on a cell phone and or tablets or however they communicate. The generation coming up behind us doesn't read too much print, it's mostly electronic. So we tie everything to those messaging boards and internally inside the facility. So basically, inside, even in this facility, you will see if you walk it, that there are 4K LED messaging boards inside the building wrapping the inside of the showroom. Those messaging boards are changed remotely from our advertising department, just like the boards that we're proposing to go on the street. Those boards speak to the electronic consumer. So basically, someone walking through the building basically has an independent Wi-Fi system inside the building, so it picks it up. It says basically, shop the competition or shop the world, buy here, is really what it says. So I'm not trying to do a commercial, but basically what it says is we have a 100% price guarantee. We really don't care where on the planet you want to shop it under the same terms and conditions, meaning delivered, in this particular case, West Warwick, Rhode Island, we guarantee the price. That's important today because most mindsets of the consumer is that it's cheaper online. I'm here to attest to you that it's not cheaper online if you consider all of the services and products considered in your home. So from that perspective, but it's a matter of proof to the consumer because I can say whatever I want. It really doesn't matter. There's 4,000 messages on TV and on the radio. I'm sure you've heard every commercial from here to Kingdom Come. And so we basically don't want anybody to believe us, so we put it in writing. So the message boards inside the building tie back to the one outside the building. About 20% of our commercials are tied to nonprofits. There's one right down the street here in West Warwick, the Arctic Playhouse, that we've done quite a bit of work with. So from that perspective, and I'm only saying that because on those message boards also we rotate through the nonprofits. This past weekend, there was an event at Meeting Street School, and you'll notice if you came through Attleboro, through Pawtucket into Providence, the messaging board that was there had the Meeting Street Center's telethon on it, and had this one been here, it would have had that on it. When we do the events like with the theater in downtown Arctic here, then that same thing ties to happen. So 20% of the rotation of those go on those boards. They're not video, it's stagnant shots, except that it just allows us to basically react instantaneously. So from an advertising perspective, if we have to react to something, we want to react within minutes, not days, not weeks, not months.
And so from your perspective, with your experience experience and insight into the marketplace, the sign package that we're proposing, this is what it's going to take to be effective and continue to be successful.
That's what we believe, yes.
Could you talk a little bit about the increase in the square footage of the building and just tell us what that is about?
Well, that was because of my architect who's sitting in the back, and that because when we did the front, and this piece in the front, how many revisions have we been through? 14, maybe 15? So this is, you know what, I think some of you probably know what the building looks like now, but this is the new front of the building. So this, in order to accomplish this, we had to build some structure underneath this to hold it up. And in order to build that structure, I didn't really want to add the square footage, but they made me. So the engineers, who basically drew it, David O'Day, said that I needed to have that square footage there to put the footings in big enough to hold that thing in the air. So that's what that square footage came from. It basically, it's nothing more than the entrance to the building. It's really not going to be usable space for the showroom.
It's not a showroom.
No, not at all.
I just clarify, that's the additional 1,000
Yes.
square feet?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and if, to be honest with you, if push came to shove and everybody had a thing for those 2 extra parking spaces, we've got the land to put the parking spaces, but we just don't need it. 90% of the people that shop today will shop online either before they leave their house or once they've been in your store after they get home or while they're in the building. So from that perspective, that's just the way it's done, and I don't really care whether it's furniture, automobiles, or anything for that matter. That's what the percentage is. So what that's done to retail, and I heard some of the commentary on square footage and the stores up and down the street, that's what the challenge is for the small retailer. Things that are UPSable, stuff that can be shipped to a house is what's really killing the small independent retailer. So from our perspective, in terms of doing all this, everything's geared around how the consumer thinks, how they shop, and where they're going. So the only people we pay more money to than our lawyers are the bean counters and my architects and engineers, and they do a tremendous amount of research on the consuming public. 85% of the checks, credit cards that are swiped, and payments that are done, regardless of who it is, are done through females. So we cater to women in 85% of the cases because they literally sign the check. Figuratively speaking, because most of it's a credit card, but that's a different point.
Ask my wife.
There you go.
So can you tell us a little bit about the industry and the success you've had with this type of increased signage at your other locations and what your competitors are doing and how it compares to what you're proposing?
If you, again, I'm sure you've seen it, but from a perspective of most of our competitors have substantial signage. If you go by the Warwick Mall, where Jordan's is located, you'll notice there's signs virtually everywhere, not only wrapping that parking lot, but on both sides of that building and on the street. If you look at their other facilities, you will see them in different states and in different areas where they've done the exact same thing. Our facility in Attleboro is a byproduct of that. Our facility in Swansea is pretty much a ditto of that also. So from that perspective, it's just part. You have to, people in the brick and mortar sense have to know where you are, and it's basically a 24/7 operation, so literally and figuratively. So we operate in terms of whether it be the Far East, in terms of having an office there, and we like to buy as much in the United States as humanly possible, but we source from all over the world. So from that perspective, we're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no stopping. It only shuts down for about 12 hours, 3 days a year. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, and that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Carty at this moment?
I do have a question. The sign itself, will it be scrolling text or?
No.
No, okay.
It's strictly stagnant.
Okay.
We took a shot.
Specifically asked what sign.
Okay. The standing sign,
So
yeah.
they're referring
Yeah.
to the freestanding.
The
electronic-
freestanding sign, sorry, electronic sign, sorry about that.
Electronic
Yes.
messaging sign?
Yes.
Yep.
That's what this one is. This is a shot of what one of the boards would look like, but it's not video, it is not moving, it's not scrolling, it's stagnant.
So it's essentially a billboard, a lit-up billboard.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I have had a discussion with the attorneys on this, and I am convinced from my discussion, that the provision prohibiting animated signs is not what they're coming in. They're coming in under the provision of electronic message display device, which is a permitted use. And went into some detail with the attorneys to make sure that they were aware that the type of sign you are mentioning is not permitted. And I've been assured that they're in the approved kind of sign.
The difference being that it's not, I forget the exact text of the definition, but that the one that is prohibited, the automated sign, is a video, essentially a video, moving irregularly, changing. This is static. They can change it at moments when they'd like to. I think you mentioned 5 minutes, or but it's not constantly moving. They can change the sign. It's sort of like those old boards where you could change the letters. Now they can do it digitally, but it stays there once it's there for.
So it's basically not a distraction to anyone driving. Is what
That
the
was the
concern
purpose behind it. Just down the street from them, at the Quaker Valley Mall, that issue came up. And their sign, they had proposed a rotating sign, and that was said no, and they have the stationary.
The only other people that would touch the board is, help me with,
Yeah, do you want to come up?
please.
Yes.
Can you explain how it works with the children, the lost children? God forbid, I hope that never happens.
Amber alerts?
Yeah, the board can be set up.
Station,
Oh, wait.
your name and occupation.
Jim Bradford, I'm sales manager for Metco, which is a 50-year-old family-owned business based out of Duluth, Georgia, suburb of Atlanta.
Raise your right hand. So I tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the features that we can implement into the through the software that comes with the board is the Amber Alert program. So it's based on zip codes. So we put a bunch of zip codes in around the area of the sign, and if an Amber Alert goes off, it immediately goes to the sign, takes over the message that's on the board, and lasts until that Amber Alert's over. So it's a great feature. That, along with, as Ron said, community involvement to the degree that he wants.
Along those same lines, it seems there's a potential to use that in the event of any disaster, natural disaster emergencies, that kind of thing too.
Yeah, everything from tornado warnings to hurricanes to extreme weather. Yep, same setup.
And then the other question I had, what are the hours of operation?
That can be scheduled ahead of time as well. I mean, typically, that would be up to the client. That'd be up to Ron.
Talking about the store? The store is open from 10 in the morning until 9:30 at night.
As far as the sign itself, I mean, is it going to be lit?
Would it just be operating during open hours, or is it 24/7?
The signs are typically, the one in Attleboro is 24/7. And to be honest with you, they usually become more of a distraction when they're off than when they're on, because it's LED and it's pretty graphic. So what happens is that when it's off, it's actually a black rectangle on this pole, which looks more odd than when it's lit. So from that perspective, it'd probably be cheaper to shut it off when no one's looking at it at 2 in the morning, but it would look ugly, I think, anyway. From my perspective, they look a lot better when they're lit.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The sign itself is a two-sided sign, correct?
It's two signs specifically, yes.
It's two-sided.
Not two, well, technically, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not two-sided, it's two
So it's
signs.
378, it's two signs?
One faces north and one faces south.
Two faces back to back on a structure.
Okay, so it's 378 square feet each sign. This says each side, but it should say each sign. Yeah. We have an ordinance, obviously you're looking for relief. This is gonna be a substantial relief. Our ordinance calls for 40 square feet. You're looking for relief of 338 square feet. So this is going to be by 9 times the largest size of that type of sign in West Warwick.
Correct.
And probably rightfully so, from Cardi Furniture standpoint?
From our perspective, it's minimal. And it may sound odd, but we went through the exact same thing. And oddly enough, what you just said, 40 square feet, that's exactly what the size is in Attleboro. So when we did but the problem is that when downtown Attleboro was built and when Arctic was first built, that made perfect sense. When you're walking down the sidewalk in Arctic and you're looking at 40 square feet, it's fairly substantial. You're looking up at that sign, you can almost touch them. When you're driving down the road and you've got a 100,000 square foot building or 100 plus thousand square foot building, it becomes a whole different perception and animal. In fact, what we deal with in terms of even with DOT regulations with size of letters is that DOT tells us to make the letters bigger because they don't want them too small because then it's more of a traffic hazard than when it's bigger.
It makes it difficult for the driver to see what's on there if the letters are too small.
Yes, sir. You're on,
It-
yes.
It makes it a clear effect, having bold letters and having bigger bold letters. It's safer driving. I understand that. Personally, I'm kind of waiting for the sign on the south side of your building. You have a huge area that's been vacant on that side for years, and I often wondered why you haven't utilized it prior to this.
You're talking about the space between the building and the exit ramp.
No, on your building itself. Your building is a billboard.
Oh, yes, okay. Well, you know, my brothers would probably argue with you. So
I remember that the town of West Warwick was, and working with yourself and your brothers, that we were able to have the exit coming from that ramp put in.
Correct.
All in.
Good memory.
I'm the former councilman from the area.
Okay.
I was at your.
Then you remember.
I was at your electric charging ceremony back
Okay.
a few years ago.
Okay.
But.
There weren't any electric cars when we put that in, but now they're everywhere.
The Nissan dealer right on the side of you
Yes.
had a couple of cars over there. But that being said, the signs on your building, I don't think are a problem at all. Having a larger sign, replacing your cubes is a 60% increase, again, but that's not all that bad. The biggest concern is how this sign is going to be located. In fact, it's not going to be any issue at all of resonating light into a residential area, which is a good thing. Something that a councilman, you always look at, whether a hotel or a casino or a water park is going to go into. Did I say them all? I think I did. I think I named
You
every one.
missed Park Bow Wow.
The what?
The Bow Wow Park.
You can't bow out?
Oh,
Can't
it's
bow
like
wow.
that, I don't know why. Anyway, but the only thing that, you know, the biggest consideration, the two parking places, that's nothing to concern ourselves with. It's a big sign, but they're doing it right. It faces north and south. It will not radiate anywhere into a residential area.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add about the technology that we're working with Ron on is that along with the sign and the control system, you also get 7-day-a-week monitoring of the board via our Medco help desk. So there'll be webcams on the board. Our help desk will be monitoring the boards to make sure, you know, that it is the way it should be and there's no tiles out or starting to look, you know, like some of the old signage you drive around and see. So it's constantly being monitored, and diagnostics are scanning the board to make sure it's 100% as it should be.
Mr. Chairman, if I might pick up on something Mr. Calci just said about they're doing it right. I will, for purposes of the board's knowledge, state that the cooperation that I, as your advisor, have received has been complete. And I couldn't have asked for more cooperation in their putting this package together.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing the Board of Canvassers to have a voting area at your building for many, many years, too.
Our pleasure.
Thank
That'll
you.
go up on the billboard, actually.
Paula appreciates it.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
So, Mr. Bradford, could you just also speak to, you put these signs in or around the country. Can you just speak to the trends in the country and how these are being used and how often they're being used?
Yeah, we are in our 50th year of business and have now put up roughly 2,300 electronic signs around the country, around North America. And they're really, you know, as you mentioned, the flexibility of them is what clients like. They can control as needed. They can show their own messages, Amber Alerts, community involvement, and now the safeguards that are in place. It's not like when LED technology first came out and sometimes you drive around and see all sorts of problems with them. Those days are over. We're safeguarding the product. You know, for customers like Ron who need to show the product that's in the store to traffic going by, it's a huge benefit. And, you know, the project we did in Attenborough went very smooth. It's been up for about a month now. No issues at all, and we hope this is the same way.
And just in your experience, why is this a good spot for this kind of sign? You know, considering the commission members, you know, thinking about this is a large increase, this is a large sign. Why is this appropriate for this particular piece of property?
You know, it's perfect setup. The commercial application, again, no residential around to interfere with their daily lives, traffic flow. You got a captive audience driving by. The signage is large enough where they can take a glance and see the special of the day or whatever he wants to show on there, and not too small where they have to sit and stare at it for a few seconds. That's never good. So it's the appropriate size, the appropriate commercial development for this, and the traffic count will certainly benefit it.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jim Bradford? Okay, thanks. I'd like to ask George Bennett to please come up.
Could you state your name and position, please?
George Bennett. I'm president of Blount Bennett Architects.
Just raise your right hand. So I tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Bennett to walk us through the wall signage and the monument sign. I have some poster boards I'll hold up, and you can kind of describe the signs, where they're going, and answer any questions. Okay. Let's start with the front of the building.
Yep. This sign in the front above the entrance is actually a replacement of the one that's there currently. This sign down here, it says mattresses. It's just, again, some of that targeted messaging that they're trying to do. And this side over here says outdoor furniture, because between approximately here and here, there will be an area that's fenced in that has outdoor furniture. Then this is the side that you see coming down off the freeway, down towards Route 2, Quaker Lane. And we have, right now, currently, there's a large Cardi's Furniture sign in this corner. That's being replaced with this one. And then there's also mattresses here and an outdoor furniture sign there for the same reason.
Go to the other side of the building.
Yeah. This is the opposite side. Route 2 is that way, and the Rhode Island Design Center is over here. This is signage that's over a new side entrance that, because there's all parking out here. So it's a way to get into additional way to get into the building other than just the main entrance and having to walk all the way around. They now can go in this door here. And it's just signage that directs them to that area.
We'll just move on finally to I'm going to call this the replacement monument sign. It exists today in exactly the same location. We're just updating it.
This, as Ron had said earlier, this sign is is serving a couple of purposes now, where it's listing not only Cardi Furniture, but the Rhode Island Design Center and the Ashley Home Store, and it becomes a directional sign as to taking people off of Route 2 and leading them down onto, is that Murphy? James P. Murphy. James P. Murphy. Okay, so
And that sign is static, right? It's not
that's
electronic?
right. Yes, the sign itself, or the letters on the sign,
Right.
are aluminum channel, and they're LED, and they're internally illuminated.
So in preparing for this hearing tonight, have you taken a look at the surrounding properties and some of the signage in the area as it relates to the wall signs and the monument sign and the location of those
Right.
buildings in relation to the road and the size of those buildings?
I did, on 2 occasions, actually. I drove north and south on Route 2. There are, as far as the monument sign or the pylon sign, there are 3 to 4, actually, pylon signs up and down the road. South, there's one at the shopping center near where the movie theater is. That actually is a 4-sided structure that has signs on 3 sides of it, and it's larger and has more square footage than the pylon sign we're talking about. For a building, actually, that's in less square footage than what we're trying to advertise. North of their facility, there are, the first one you run into is the Nissan automobile dealership that's there. It has a large pylon sign that's right at the street, basically the same location as our sign. Further up the street, just after the next traffic light, there's a large pylon sign that advertises all of the businesses that are down off of Route 2, where Route 2 goes up and the land goes down. If you didn't have that pylon sign, you wouldn't even know, unless you were going down that side street, that the funeral home is on. I can't think of the name.
East Greenwich Avenue.
Yeah, East Greenwich. And then further up the street, there's another one near the Lowe's. There's another very large pylon sign that's advertising all of the buildings, besides Lowe's that are in there. So, and all of those are larger and have more area than the one we're proposing.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Any questions for Mr. Bennett? Okay. So finally, thank you. I'll ask Tom Sweeney to come forward.
Could you state your position, please?
Thomas, middle initial O, Sweeney, S-W-E-E-N-E-Y, real estate appraiser and broker with Sweeney Real Estate and Appraisal.
Would you raise your right hand, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Chairman, my experience in zoning and planning with this board in East Greenwich and other places that I've handled, Mr. Sweeney's well known to me, and I would suggest that the board accept him as qualified real estate expert.
Okay. Any issues where he's? All right.
Thank you.
We'll accept him.
Mr. Sweeney, did you prepare a report in preparation for tonight's meeting?
I did prepare a report, Mr. Paraso. It is essentially it's a summary of my testimony that I'm about to give.
Mr. Solicitor, may I submit the report as an additional exhibit?
I'll mark it as exhibit number 13, I believe.
There's one for each of the commissioners.
Do you have enough time?
Thanks.
That area? So, Mr. Sweeney, please describe your report and the findings you make.
At your request, Mr. Paraso, I've inspected the property, which has been testified to, is on the north, it's just north of the intersection of Quaker Lane and Interstate 95, with frontage both on the on and off ramp Quaker Lane and on James P. Murphy Highway. The subject property is located in what I consider the southern end of the Route 2, Bald Hill Road, Quaker Lane retail corridor, with many of the heavily commercial uses at the north end, but at this end, you're still very heavily commercial and service with a mix of automotive, office, retail, and the large property that we're talking about, which is the Cardy's property. The subject property is approximately just over 10 acres of land, 10.65, I believe, improved with a 108,000 square foot furniture center. What the applicant is proposing today is replacement and updating of the current signage to more competitive in what I consider market standard signage, and also looking for relief on the parking, which has already been testified. It's a minimal building increase, which results in 2 additional parking spaces being needed to be required. But at this point, the 270 spaces that are existing, I believe, already serves the needs of the property as it exists, and with the extension.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the Town of West Warwick zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan?
I am.
And would you say that the proposed signage is consistent with the commercial activity along this part of Quaker Lane and this zoning district in West Warwick?
I would. Because of the size and scope of the building and its use, the proposed signage is really identifying the property not only from the major streets, Quaker Lane, predominantly Quaker Lane, but it's also allowing for further identification from the interstate corridor. The proposed message board sign on the interstate will allow travelers on the highway to identify where the property is, how they get to it, and therefore, identify it. The other signage, as has been testified to, is predominantly to identify the use within the property. It's a 108,000 square foot building. The signage that's proposed if you compared it in ratio to signage that is on other properties along this corridor, it's probably less than what is on those other properties as a percentage of square footage.
In your opinion, is the proposed signage for the property likely to diminish property values of the surrounding properties?
It is not. The applicant is proposing to upgrade not only the signage, but the facility itself. Any increase in the quality of the building, I believe, will reflect positively on the surrounding properties, and therefore, in my opinion, it'll be consistent with those uses.
So similarly, would you say that the proposed signage is not likely to cause a nuisance in the neighborhood and the surrounding areas?
No, it absolutely will not. Actually, it'll add identification to the property and actually help the safety to get people in and out of the whole area safely.
And would you say that the proposed signage is not likely to alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or comprehensive plan?
As I stated, this signage is high quality, state-of-the-art, what is market standard at this point. In my opinion, it will not have any negative impact on the surrounding properties.
And is the proposed signage and the addition of the 1,086 square feet in conformance with the purposes and intent of the comprehensive plan?
I believe it is, yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sweeney?
Thank you.
Thank you. So at this point, I know it's getting late, so I won't belabor the point. As your solicitors will likely to advise you, there are standards that need to be met in order to grant the requested variances and special use permits. Just to run through those quickly, in section 9.8 of the zoning ordinance, requested relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not the general characteristics of the surrounding area, and is not due to a physical or economic disability of the applicant. As you've heard the testimony tonight, the property is located at the corner of Quaker Lane and the on-ramp to Interstate 95. The building is set way back from the road. A significant portion of the viewers of Cardy's signage are traveling along the connecting ramps and I-95, and to have meaningful signage such that the passersby can clearly see, Cardy's is requesting the proposed signage. 9.8.2, hardship of the applicant cannot be the result of any prior action of the applicant and does not result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize greater financial gain. Again, the orientation of the property on this busy Quaker Lane corridor and its location next to a major highway is not the results of the applicant's actions. The applicant is proposing to update and modernize its signage. In doing so, the applicant must take into consideration the property's unique location and its surroundings. Really what they're trying to do is have effective signing for this building, the size of this building, the size of this property, and the retail environment in which they operate. 9.8.3, the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan. As Mr. Sweeney just testified, in fact, the business development aspects and elements of the comprehensive plan are greatly enhanced by what is being proposed tonight. 9.8.4, that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary. As Mr. Cardy spoke, you could tell this is what is necessary and this is what is customary in his industry in order to continue to be relevant and continue to succeed in this marketplace. 9.9 requires one additional standard, that the hardship that will be suffered by the owner of the subject property if the dimensional variance is not granted shall amount to more than a mere inconvenience. Again, the ability of them to succeed in the marketplace is directly related to the modern branding of their building, the branding of their store, and the ability of folks to be able to see what they have and how they get there and to be relevant in the marketplace. All of what I just said applies as well to the parking variance that we're asking for. I won't repeat myself, but that is all applicable to that as well. And then because of the way that some of the ordinance is written, and in consultation with the solicitor, we're also asking for special use permits for the electronic message display sign, wall signs, and freestanding signs. And those have their own standards, all of which are very duplicative of all the testimony and what I just said. So I won't go through that other than to say that, what we're proposing is compatible with the neighboring land uses. It doesn't create a nuisance. It doesn't hinder the future development of the town. It conforms to all applicable sections of the ordinance, and it's in conformance with the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan and the applicable standards of the ordinance for this particular property. Lastly, I just mentioned that in 2007, a variance was granted for a freestanding sign at the property to specifically permit a freestanding sign that exceeded the dimensional requirements and permitted a light-emitting diode message board, essentially what we're suggesting here, exceeding 25% of the sign face area. And that was permitted. We just didn't build it at the time in 2007. So I just wanted you to have that background.
Any other questions from the board? Further questions? I don't see anybody in the audience.
Audience is gone.
We have no audience.
One other thing that they may want to know, I don't know if they go here, since you came, I don't know if you want to explain their sewer easement?
I can do that.
Because he might want to just know where it is, and then we'll let you go home. But because it became not an issue for us, but a challenge for the town in terms of where it was, and this gentleman, he found it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm Chris Palmer, a professional land surveyor with David D. Gardner and Associates out of Warwick, Rhode Island.
Raise your right hand. So I tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
That was Chris Palmer.
Yep. What we have here is, after doing a lot of research, the town acquired an easement off Mr. Cardy. In the conveyance itself, it referenced a map with all the conditions. Well, the map was never recorded in the vault. It was only sent to the sewer authority. What we know in 2010, flooded out. So all the records are destroyed.
That's ironic.
So, challenge, I started this in the beginning of 2018, and I've tried to drag and find the records. What turned out, we actually scanned it. We met with the sewer authority, so we scanned it and located the line, and we now have identified where the easement is, and we're proposing that the sign and everything be out of that. That was our challenge. And so, hopefully this plan will get somewhat recorded, so.
I was just going to comment on that. Not that lack of a recorded easement surprises me. Would Cardy's be willing to grant a defined meets and bounds easement that we could record and?
We did. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't
The
mean to
one
interrupt
that's
you.
disappeared.
Yeah, what happened was back when we built the building, and I don't remember this exactly, but we actually the town came to us and said, we have a problem, and I don't remember what year it was or who it was. When I have all this fun, I forget, but, and the sewer easement was there, and they did not have an easement to it, so we gave it to them. And at the time, whoever it was, and I think it might have been Geyser or somebody did some of the engineering, and I don't remember who it was, but someone did it. And I don't know, Bud, if you remember that, because you guys are through the building, but it was okay. But the point is that, anyway, so the long and the short of the story is that we did record it. But the problem was that, I guess the meets and bounds, or whatever you call this thing.
No, well, what happened, it was all identified on a plan. And the plan, the conveyance alone of the easement just states that there's an easement from you to the town of West
Right,
Warwick
exactly.
for a sewer easement. And as explained on the plan. So the plan itself is not recorded, was never recorded. And that gave all the details of where it was, what's to be done with it.
What a
where it is.
surprise.
So we gave it to the town, they didn't record it, but you gave them the electronic file for this, right? They have it now?
I think so, they have this part.
So-
The easement itself is of record, and that's in the land evidence.
Yeah, it's of record, the
But
problem was is actually
what I am
locating it on the
suggesting
ground.
what I am suggesting for future getting rid of problems, if you could prepare a meets and bounds easement that I will see to it, that it gets recorded, and then there'll be no future problems of
That's-
looking for where it's recorded or.
You know what he wants?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
This is a 12-inch force main that kind of handles all of East Greenwich. It's kind of a big deal.
Well, then-
If this goes down, then
Then I
this
think-
would be some big
Handles
problem.
all of East Greenwich, yes, I would say.
Excuse- What happened?
It
Sorry.
should be done
No,
properly.
he can give you that, that's not a problem. There's actually also a legal easement into our property for the vehicles to come in to this pumping station. So that, I'm surprised that wasn't recorded, but that was. That is recorded.
It's a blanket easement, so
Okay.
it allows them to travel over the existing travel right of
Right.
way. So if you change your parking,
Okay,
there's no defined way.
okay,
They
Go
can-
where you say, okay, we'd like to have the driveways here now, so.
got it, okay.
Yeah, so our monument sign has always been on top, within this easement area. The new sign that we're proposing is outside of the easement area, and I can work with Chris and the solicitor
Yeah, if you just get,
help to put some definition around where that sewer line is.
yeah, that will protect,
We can do
We'd
that.
be happy to
will
do that, yeah,
protect
sure.
you and the town.
Gentlemen,
We're good.
I'm looking at your map, and with my eyes, it looks like the bullet point for the tower of the sign is up to and against the west side of that easement. So you're pretty close.
Yeah. if
So
you
what
look, I give
Mr.
a dimension off the
DeFiore
parking lot.
is requesting it'd probably be beneficial for you.
We're outside, yeah, we specifically spotted it, so, and that's why we were so,
A foot or two to the west wouldn't be a bad thing either.
Yeah, what you're running up against is there's utilities there. We have an electric line that
Right.
services the charging station for all of your cars, for the electric cars that you've now put in. You have a gravity line. I don't know what it's servicing, if it has to go across Quaker Lane into the other town, to the town of Warwick, the city of Warwick, and very little flow in it. The sewer department, we own out there, we have no idea what it services. It's there, it has a trickle to it, so what we're trying, the position that it's placed is so we don't affect any of the existing utilities there.
So we kind of have to have that where it is.
That's, we had it scanned, we had a sonar scan done to actually identify the limits of the rubbing and the pipe itself.
because we asked, I actually personally called the sewer department and had them come out. And everyone came out, but no one knew where it was. So, that's why we had to hire the company to come in and scan. So they spent a day just basic sonar, right?
Yeah.
So sonar scanning the ground to find this pipe, which they found, so.
They found it.
So,
Well, I'm sure,
but we'll get it recorded.
I'm sure that members of the board, that John and I can resolve the issue. And all I want to tell you, Mr. Carty, is you're not the first one with an unrecorded easement.
We'll
Probably
fix it.
not the last.
Any further
That's it.
Testimony.
Mr. Chairman, motion to close the public session.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, just for purposes of the board's knowledge on this, because of the extensive testimony you've had, I've made arrangements with Paul that in the morning I will pick up the disc of the recording, and we'll be able, depending on the board's motion, which if it moves to grant it, I will be able to base it on the facts that were given in the testimony, number one. And because of the extensive number of variances and special use permit that are being requested, I would make the suggestion to the board that a motion, if a motion is being made to approve, that it be approve the dimensional variances and special use permits as requested, and then I will work with John to make sure that they are included, and if there's anything subject to or changes that the board want to make, those be put on the record.
You need two separate motions, one for variance
Yes.
and one for special permit?
Yes.
Right, yeah. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the dimensional variance application that's before us. Number 2019-4.
I'll second that.
Peter Kelsey?
Yes.
Well, is there any
Motion.
Any
This
discussion?
is just for the motion. Yeah, no,
Discussion.
discussion, yeah. I'm, just for the record, I will be voting to approve based on the fact, very similar to the conversation that our legal counsel supported, the unique characteristics of subject land and structure will not be changed in any way. It's not the result of any prior action of the applicant, will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent of the proposed zoning ordinances. It's the least relief necessary, and if not granted, the hardship will result in more than a mere convenience in this particular case, many of which are keeping up with the market area and the types of advertising.
Amy's sitting for now, right? Any comments, discussion? Okay. Rick?
No, I agree with the statements made by Peter.
I'd have to agree, not to reiterate what he said, but I think it's a great project, and I think I'll be voting to approve it as well.
I also, for the reasons already stated, will be voting in the affirmative for the application.
Peter Kelsey?
Yes?
Amy Ortiz? Yes. Justin Kuzu?
Yes.
Richard Banks?
Yes.
And Alan Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the application for a special use permit under petition 2019-4 that's in front of our board at this time.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just for the record, I am planning on approving. It is compatible with the neighborhood. It will not create a nuisance, will not hinder future development in the town, will conform to all application sections of zoning ordinance, and in its confirmation with the purposes of intent of the comprehensive plan.
Amy?
I agree.
Rick?
For all the same reasons, not to reiterate everything over again, very well put together and very clearly stated, so I will be voting to approve as well.
Justin?
Same here, be voting to approve for the same reasons.
The same.
Peter Kelsey?
Yes?
Amy Ortiz? Yes. Justin Kuzu?
Yes.
Richard Banks?
Yes.
Alan Clark?
Yes. Motion's passed.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
We have one more.
Whoa, hey, whoa.
Really?
Yeah.
We have the 2019 zoning board of review schedule. that-
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can stay if you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, thank you. Thank you. Good night, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, it is. Wait before adjourn.
Is there any comments, discussion about the schedule and the dates?
They all look real. Good.
Just for the record, the zoning hearings will be held the last Wednesday of the month unless otherwise specified. And the hearings begin at 7 p.m. and are held in the town council chambers. The dates are January 30th, February 27th, March 27th, April 24th, June 26th. There's no meeting scheduled for July, August 28th, September 24th, October 30th, November 27th, and no meeting scheduled for December.
Will approve, motion to approve, Peter Kelsey.
Second.
Do I need to take a roll call?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
We did that, we just did that.
Right.
Second? Second?
Second.
Second.
Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
we adjourned
Aye.
twice.
See ya.
Meeting adjourned.